Hello, Dawn McPhee here from Dawn's Inspirations. I had a couple of requests after doing the Pink Frog Tips and Techniques with Super Smooth show yesterday on Create & Craft TV. So you're just loving this Super Smooth in the 300 GSM. It's probably going to send the camera doolally, but it's fantastic for making your cards, but also great because you can go straight on with all those techniques, so you don't have to mat and layer if you don't want to. So I've had a request about the homemade texture paste. So the top one here, this is shop bought texture paste. You'll see it's got a nice luster to it, and bought texture paste is absolutely marvellous, but sometimes you haven't got it or it's not in the right colour. You can make your own very easily, and this is homemade texture paste that I've used here. So to start with, you're going to need a stencil. So yes, people have stencils in their craft stash, and I've also made one here. Well, I made a couple actually. Never got round to using them on the show. The time just flew past. With the Pink Frog Mylar, which is available on the Create & Craft brand shop, Pink Frog, and also on the Pink Frog website. So the great thing about it is it comes in 12 by 12 sheets, and you can cut it down to whatever size you like. Now I've die cut mine out using a couple of the Pink Frog flourish dies. So yes, you don't have to have a fancy die cutting machine to cut your Mylar. Use the dies you've got in your craft stash, because you can quite easily make fabulous stencils. I use my metal shim on my die cutting machine like you would with acetate, so you get that nice crisp clean cut, and you do. And of course once you've made one, you've got it. Okay, no problem at all. So I've made several here. The bits of waste you've got, which are these, don't throw these away, because you could colour these with alcohol pens. You could use them on your card making, your scrapbooking projects, you know, glue them on quite easily with your EVA glue. You won't see it. Absolutely perfect, so no waste with this. So I'm going to use the one where I've got the two large. So let's move this to one side. Now there's two ways of making homemade texture paste. Okay, so I'll make both so you can see. So I'm going to make them over here, so it'll be a little bit messy. So you're going to need gesso. So for the first one, you're going to need gesso, some cheap corn flour, or corn flour you've got out of date, you're going to put in the bin. Doesn't matter. Cheaper the better. And I'm going to colour with the Pearly Winks sprays, but any spray would do. Any liquid like alcohol pad refills, anything that's liquid will be fine. The second version, you're just going to need a coloured acrylic paint and corn flour. Easy as that. Okay, so no problem at all. So I'll tell you what, let's go in with the really easy one first. So you're just going to pop some acrylic paint down there. I've got a lovely lime green going on here. And then you're going to mix a little bit of the corn flour. The nice thing about this, you can make up what colour you want when you want. You haven't got to store loads of stuff. Okay, and most of this stuff you've already got in your craft stash anyway. Okay, and you're just going to mix it. I'm using a palette knife here. If you don't have a palette knife, do not panic. You can just go in with an old store credit card, something like that. You know, the old store cards, not an issue at all. If it gets a little bit too dry, you can add more paint, or you could just add just a little bit of water, not too much water. Okay, you're better off to add paint rather than water. And this technique gives you a lovely chalky finish. I'm going to add some more paint rather than adding more water. I should have used perhaps a spoon to get my corn flour out the pot, but there we go. So I'm just mixing this on my glass mat because I find that's the easiest way to do it. Okay, so that's being mixed up, and you're going to have that consistency. Well, you can see hopefully the consistency I've got going on here. Okay, it's thick but not too thick. In fact, I'm going to just put a little spray of water, not one, not much, just one. There we go. That's the consistency you want, that sort of look about it. And the nice thing with the 350 GSM cardstock as well, this makes great texture backgrounds for your mixed media. And you saw me paint thick acrylic paint straight on to a sheet of the 350 GSM, no problem at all. So, you know, don't forget about that. Let me see if I've got it here beside me. There we go. That's the one I did on air. So that was painted directly thick. You saw me do it. I'll leave the links under the YouTube video here of how you can watch it on rewind. But I painted this on really thickly and then went in with my texture tool to make a texture background. But you can quite easily look at that lovely texture, 3D texture. So for your mixed media, fabulous. Okay, so that's that. That's the first one. In fact, should we do a little go with the first one? So I'll just do one side so you got the idea. So I'll bring that in there. So normally I would tape all this down. So you can tape this down with your masket. I always find that's very easy to do. You can use your repositionable tape, anything like that, but I'm just going to go in for it. So I'm picking up my paste and you're going to put it onto your stencil and then drag it over your stencil. And I'm keeping it quite flat. I'm just wiping the excess off there. Okay, take that away, and there you go. Straight away you've got that lovely look going on of the 3D texture paste, and that will dry naturally quite quickly. So that's that one. Let me just clear this to one side and we will make the other version. Okay, so you can see that texture that we've got. So wet wipes, let's just have a little clear up going on here. Need to wipe my stencil. So I've got that ready for the next one. And your Mylar stencils work exactly the same as any other stencils you have. If you've got the Mylar from Pink Frog, you know, you can soak them in some warm soapy water, or like I'm doing here, just wipe away with your you know, your wipes and a towel, anything you like. So let's just wipe that dry, ready for the next one. There we go. So that's that one. Let me get another piece of paper in here. So the other way we can make texture paste, I need to wipe my spatula before we start. That's it. You know, just investing in one of these. I've had this one years. So once you've got one, you don't need another one. Put it that way. So just got it all over my hands. That's not a very good start. So this time I'm going to go in with acrylic paint or gesso. Okay, you could use white acrylic paint. I prefer gesso. And again, you can get hold of gesso on the Pink Frog website or even in the brand shop on Create and Craft. I'm going to take out a little bit this time. I'm not going to tip it because I've got too much last time. So I'm going to take some corn flour. Okay, and I'm going to put in, I'm going to spray this a bit of my Pearlywinks. So this is the thing, you can make this any colour you wish. You can make it as dark as you like, as light as you like. I personally think the gesso one is a bit more fluid. And the gesso one that we've got here, if you keep that in an airtight tub, it will keep in the fridge for about a week before it starts to go all horrible. Okay, so that is worth knowing as well. Alright, so if it's something you're thinking, oh, I'd like to do a few of those, but I want different colours, you could just make a white gesso with the corn flour, and then as you want to use a bit, you can just bring it in. So the Pearlywinks, obviously being very liquid, is going to make this more liquid. So I'm going to add a little bit more of the corn flour. Going to tip it and hopefully carefully not tip too much, because you need that thicker consistency. Okay. but it's just nice to do different things, and having that 350 from Pink Frog has allowed me to play in a totally different way. Yes, we can do this on our watercolour card, and you can do it on your 350, your 300, sorry, Super Smooth, but having that 350 just gave me more confidence to throw more at it, definitely. Now that's a bit light for me. I'm going to add a bit darker, so I'm going in with another Pearly Winks one. Got Highland Green this time. That's a bit darker. Looks dark, but you watch when you start mixing it. It soon lightens up. But it's just great to have a play sometimes. I tend to have a time in the craft room making loads of backgrounds like this, leave them all laying around on the craft room floor overnight, and then come back the next day, pick them all up, and I've got them ready to go for cards. So, brilliant. Now you see your Pearly Winks is going to make that more fluid, and it is making it lighter. I can't remember what colour I used last time. I'm sure it was this one. So I'm going to add a little bit more cornflour, and then we'll start doing our texturing, because that should be ready. That's the colour. It's literally the same colour as I created last time. So just keep mixing it up, because you don't want lumps of cornflour in your texture paste. My cornflour, I couldn't even find the out of sale date. It's so old. I was having a look for it. I think I tore it off, but I think it's like 2014. I've had it years. I just keep it in my craft messy box. But yes, any cornflour you've got out of date, don't go using expensive cornflour. A bit like the shaving foam, use the cheapest you can get your hands on. Doesn't need to be expensive. Right, I'm liking the look of that. I might just add a little tad more. But you'll look at the consistency you're starting to get. That's better. Okay. Try and get that in a bit more of a pile that's manageable, rather than me spreading it everywhere. There we go. Scrape that in. You could mix it with a brush. I prefer personally just a palette knife like this. There we go. Can you see that lovely consistency again? Like really thick whipped cream. This one's already drying out here under my lights. And actually, if I bring that one in that I finished, that's dry. That's ready to go. That's dry. That's how quick it dries. Right, let's move this off here. So I'll leave that one up there so you can see that one. And now let's bring my stencil in here. Let's do one on the same side here. So I'm going to bring that in. Pick up a good dollop. I need to pick up a bit more of a dollop than that. And put on your stencil. And keep scraping off your excess. There you go. Once you're happy that that is level with the top of your stencil or your Mylar, lift it away carefully, and there you go. So if I lift that up, you can see that lovely 3D look on there. Just beautiful. So that is as easy as it is to create your homemade texture paste, whether you choose paint with cornflour, or whether you go gesso, cornflour and a spray. So I'm Dawn McPhee from Dawn's Inspirations. If you haven't pressed like to my YouTube channel, please subscribe, and then you won't miss out on all my crafty goings on. See you soon.